Alright guys, as I mentioned in the car, there are basically 4 standard guitar types you might focus on as a beginner, which doesn't mean you can go with something more exclusive like a V-shape or Explorer, depending what your guitar god is or who in fact the guitar god is. But we're here, for example, at the Ibanez corner with a lot of double cut Strat model type of guitars. These guitars feature a good accessibility of the high frets. Most of the time you got 24 frets, which means you have a wider range of notes you can reach. They have most of the time a very flat neck profile and also a very ergonomic body shape, which means that you have here a flattened part so that if you're playing while sitting or standing, it can be like adapted better to your body, so to speak. This is like a double cut super Strat model, and now we're just heading to other models you can potentially have a look at. For example, we have here the Telecaster type. This one here just features 21 frets, which doesn't mean that there are Telecasters with more frets, but usually you have 21 frets. Also, you don't have the double cuts like you're having on Strat models. You have here a part of the body blocking the accessibility. And for example, with my tiny hands, it's actually hard to reach the fret here, the 21st, because also most of the time Taylor models have this block here at the back, which is like a vintage style, which is like traditional, and it just doesn't feature the ergonomic feeling like you would have with a more modern built model, so to speak. The neck here is a little bit more pat, so to speak, but we will take a look what this means exactly later in this video. Off we go with the typical Strat model. This is the Stratocaster model. And again here, you have a good accessibility and also the double cut. It makes it a lot easier to reach the higher frets. You have here a bit of a wider fretboard and also not such a thick fretboard. This is actually the archetype of guitar that most beginners choose because you have starter guitar packs with a Strat model, which is mostly black and white. At least for me it was like that, and there are so many of these starter packages around because the Strat model is actually the beginner model for you guys. Last but not least, we take a look at the rock guitar, which is again a lot different than the 3 other guitars, since the Les Paul model has a very distinctive sound, especially when you choose a Gibson Les Paul. Here we got an LTD by ESP Les Paul. You see, it's a single cut model. We got here a round part of the body, and which makes it again less accessible on the high frets, at least for me, because I have again tiny hands. But you have here on the back no block that is like blocking the accessibility of the higher frets. It's very round here, and so this is actually the first thing you can look at. Grab a guitar, have it in your hands, and just feel if the body type is something for you. Feel the accessibility and also the weight. For example, this guitar here is the most heavyweight guitars of all the 4 I just had in my hands. And actually it's tiring my arm already. Even though I know this guitar is very punchy because of the pickups. But this is another subject we will take a look at maybe in a different video or later in this video. But these are the 4 types of guitars you can have a look at before you start purchasing online. Now, next step. We are here now in the amp room of Session Music Frankfurt, and with the amazing help of the personnel and people I know here, I was able to gather the classic beginner guitars for you. They are in a budget range between 100 euro-ish to 400 euro-ish, so that you get an impression what you can get for your money. And therefore we have here an Epiphone, a Les Paul model with P90 pickup-ish pickups. Then we have here different popular brands, for example, a budget model from Jackson. We got LTD by ESP and EC10, a guitar I have been getting for myself as spare guitar when I started out. So I'm just amazed it still exists. Then we have here an Ibanez, like lower mid-range pricey model. Then we have here a Gio Ibanez, the guitar I also did a giveaway for in a former video. We have a Kramer, we have two Squire models. First of all, a Strat model and a Telecaster. So these are the standard beginner models you can purchase. But of course, like I mentioned before, there are also Explorer and these shape guitars. I would not recommend them because you need a special posture when you're sitting in order to be able to practice with them. And as a beginner, you just want to have as few obstacles as possible. And so these are the shapes that are beginner friendly. Hence, I focus on these. So for example, the first thing I will now show you is the different neck profiles. I have had every single one of these guitars in my hands already. And this Gibson-ish Les Paul by Epiphone has a very thick neck, which means it's the typical Gibson Les Paul neck. For my fingers, this means I have trouble shaping chords and doing fast stuff just because this neck here is really, really big for me. Which is why I will now make you aware that it's important to check the different neck types. This one here, big. Now we take a look at another guitar, which is this Gio Ibanez. If you take a look at the fretboards like this, they seem equal, like wide, but if you are just comparing them side by side with the thickness, you might notice that there's a tiny difference. This one here is thicker than this one. Let's focus on the first and most important part of the guitar, at least in my opinion, which is the fretboard. Since without a comfortable fretboard, your arm and your hand and your fingers might get a lot of cramps, and also your playing might get unclean and not as good as if you are searching for a guitar that is perfect for your fingers. This one here, for example, has a very thick fretboard. It's typical for Gibson-like guitars, Gibson Les Paul-like guitars, in fact. And so I just show you how much of a difference fretboard shape is giving you. Alright, so if we just take a look at the fretboards of the Ibanez and the Epiphone, they might look identical now from the back, but if we are just putting them side by side, you might notice that this guitar has a much thinner fretboard than this guitar, and this means this looks like if I grab the guitar here and if I grab the Ibanez, it looks like this. That's much more space for my hand. So typically you might want to have a guitar that is complementing your hands. So with small hands, I wouldn't necessarily recommend such a neck shape. But if you're having big fingers, long fingers, these neck shapes might come in handy. So it's always important to grab the guitars to see, well, is it heavy? Is the fretboard good in your hand or not? Much more interesting is now this Jackson budget guitar, as it features a very, very, very thin but wide neck. And if you're just turning around these two guitars, you might see, or just see at first sight, that this neck is wider than this one here. But in comparison, if I just put them against each other, this neck is a lot flatter than the one from the Gibson Les Paul type guitar. Which means, again for me, for small hands, it's much more comfortable to grab and you have much more or better control about the instrument. Most of the time, some people make the mistake that they are just tuning the instrument depending on the looks. For example, this one here caught my attention because it's red and it's sparkling. So I'm the perfect victim for this guitar. But is this actually a guitar that would be suiting for a beginner? Is it of good quality? Does it sound well? Does it play well? I don't have a clue. I just want to make you alert that even if you are falling in love with a special shape, a special color, a special finish, don't fall for it. Giving you more tips about how to choose your instrument is also taking a look at how it feels. If you're sliding around the fretboard and you might see that these little silver thingies called frets might cut you open, maybe you should look at another instrument, as well as taking a look at the tuners, whether they feel good, whether the guitar is greatly tunable or not is another small hint I can give to you, as well as taking a look at the pickups and the position of your picking hand. And we have here on this Strat model single coil pickups, which give you a more distinctive sound but not much punch as you might expect it from a humbucker, which is the thicker pickup. We will take a look at the humbucker pickup on a different model. This budget Strat model by Squier has 3 single coils and it sounds basically like this. This is the normal sound. With mostly every guitar you have a toggle switch which will give you a different kind of emphasis of these pickups and it will make the guitar sound different. I will not test every guitar against each other in this video, as this would be totally taking too long. It just should give you an impression how the guitar is sounding like, and maybe you can just find your preferred sound within these models I'm showing you here in this video. Another thing is, if you're taking a look at your arm and your picking hand, you shouldn't cramp here as well. And here, this guitar is very comfortable on the picking hand. I have 0 effort to do my strumming, and also my arm, it's pretty much safe here on the body. And here we got the first guitar with a humbucker pickup. This one here delivers more steam, so to speak, and it gives you more punch when you're palm muting. Sounds like this. This guitar sounds best as for now. We already took a look at the Epiphone, which is the brand on a budget by Gibson. We took a look at the Gio Ibanez, the budget guitar of Ibanez. Also, we took a look at a budget Jackson. And with Squier, we are taking a look at the budget guitar form of Fender. So now we have here a Telecaster model. And this one is usually having also a thicker neck. But this one here, as it's suiting for beginners, features a more like approachable neck. Okay. Alright, so this guitar here is my favorite when it comes to weight. It's very, very lightweight. It's incredible. And It's very, very lightweight. Hi everyone, let me know in the comments below how much you enjoyed part 1 of a somewhat beginner guitar guide on what to look out for if you purchase your first guitar. Less playing here because I focused more on giving tips about the instrument itself, explaining some words, explaining some key things, as you might have noticed. Might have been a bit more boring to those who actually know how to shred, I know, but as Christmas is approaching and some people might want to get their instrument, take this as a short support. At this point, I want to say thank you so much for the lovely support on Patreon. You guys are the best team ever. You can check out my other videos here or click subscribe, hit the bell and select all if you want to get notified about all my future uploads. Stay tuned and rock on. Cheers from Gothenburg. By the way, I'm going to see Dark Tranquility.